Thank you for showing up here at the Calendar Expo. Glad to see you. I hope you've got your thinking caps on tonight. I sure don't. But I am glad because this is a good turnout for this. And this particular subject is getting more and more popular as time goes on, isn't it? And you and I have done a great deal of research to find out the right way. And certainly there's going to be a reward in that, even if it's just the knowledge that we are doing right and fulfilling the commandment of our Father who loves us and has taken care of us our whole life and will. Aha. So, what I promised is that there would be a couple people that could present. I never got except one other person who made a date to do it. So that's Tina Black. I see she's here today. Hello, Tina. We've been emailing a lot here the last few days. And I see I've been trying to get Norman Gray to say a little something about why the equinox is after the first day of the year in accordance with his understanding. And since then, yesterday, I spent some time on the Shabbat in my study trying to figure out how that could be. And I will present how that can be, if it can be, here in a little bit. My main concern tonight to express to you is that I was reading an essay from Stephen Fan, who is the director of primitive Christianity at Holy Land University in Jerusalem. He has put out a lot of writing about some very special things, discoveries, I'd have to say, he's found. And one, he claims, a new discovery concerning what these calendars have to say about the assemblies that were connected with the movement that we call Essenes. And so I wanted to go briefly through those 4 or 5 specific calendars that he finds in the Dead Sea Scrolls, 4 or 5 different ones, depending on how you look at them, and what that indicates for the people using them. So that's one thing. The second thing I wanted to do, if there's time, is again to explain how some people come up with first day of the year before the equinox this year. I am not that convinced about it, but you take a look. Depends on where your priorities lie, and we'll give you that. And I got a lot of other stuff to fill in if need be. But what I would like to do is ask if anybody wants to take some time right now and give us their presentation. Tina, do you want to do it now or later?
Yeah, I can do mine now.
Okay, that'd be great. You look very familiar to me. Do we know each other?
I don't believe so.
Okay, okay. So we ask that the Father might anoint you to give us truth, and that through the experience, you too might even get a better understanding of that which you are majoring in at this point. Amen. Hey, sis.
Amen. All right. So do I just click share screen here?
Yes, you should be able to get right to it.
Okay. Can you see that?
Nope, I can't.
Okay.
I
Hold on.
need to
Just
give you host privileges.
um,
You should click share screen and then it'll give
it,
you a look at your desktop.
yeah, it says it's okay. Hold on just a moment. Hmm. Share window. Can
There,
you see that?
coming in now.
Is that better?
Yes,
All right.
you got it.
All right. So I just want to share tonight. Thank you for letting me come in and give you where I am today. I've been researching this for a few years now, but now I think it actually clicks to me, and perhaps this will help some others who are also looking. So I will go ahead and get started here. So according to Jubilees chapter 50, verse 1, we were told that the Sabbaths were given at Mount Sinai. Now, I will be bringing in several different books that are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I do consider this, I call this the Zadok calendar. A lot of people call it, there's an Enoch calendar, Jubilees calendar, Dead Sea Scrolls calendar. I've done a lot of looking into this, and they all seem to be pointing to the same direction. And so I just call it the Zadok calendar, but when I reference it, it's a conglomerate, I guess, of what I have put together. So we we were talking about when does the year begin, and I go straight to Genesis 1:14 through 15 says, And Elohim said, Let lights come to be in the firmament of the heavens and separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, and give light on the earth. And it came to be also. So something very important here is that it mentions the sun, moon, and the stars. We need to have all of those things in place. And I know a lot of people who are trying to figure out the calendar might understand how the sun fits in, but not quite sure how the moon fits in or how the stars fit in. And I think that I have found the key and how everything moves. And I'm going to show you that it does involve the sun, the moon, and the stars, and that the stars are more important than most people think. So, how do we use the moon in the calendar? Let's take a look. We know that the moon goes through the phases. According to Enoch, it's actually a 30-day cycle rather than what you see online. They'll always tell you there's 28 days in the cycle. What's really interesting is that the moon moves throughout the zodiacs 2 to 3 times each night, and then it switches to the next zodiac and the next zodiac. And we know that each month, according to Enoch, that there's 29 or 30 days in the lunar month. That equals the 354 days. So how the moon moves through the zodiac is actually part of the Father's clock. So if you take a look at a clock, we're going to picture that the sun is our hour hand. So along with it, the hour hand, it moves. So for example, here's the hour hand on this clock. It is going to be moving into the zodiac. This is the sun and how the sun moves through the sky in each zodiac. Well, the moon is like your minute hand. It moves quickly, so every 2 to 3 nights, it's in a different location. And I'm going to explain this in a little bit more detail in just a few moments. So the big question that I hear a lot is, if you were on a deserted island, can you figure out what month it is? And I can tell you, absolutely. And so I wanted to show you today that this calendar is probably one of the only calendars that's out there that you can actually do this with. So I'm
By
going to
the
show
way,
you how.
excuse me,
Yeah,
Tina, but we're just seeing the front of the calendar here. If you've been switching,
really?
yeah, just the first page.
Oh, okay. Let
If you
me.
switch it there on your box, it should go ahead and put whatever you have on your screen, on our screen as well. There. Now you've got the moon phases on.
Interesting. Okay, so you're not able to see. Let me try something else.
We saw you. we saw your mouse moving.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I guess I will keep going. Can you see this? Can you see my mouse moving around the screen?
No, you stopped sharing.
Interesting. Okay, let me try that again.
There.
It won't let me share entire screen. It says it's not allowing, but I can share window, and maybe that's why it's not working out. Can you see now?
Moon phases.
Okay. We'll just keep it at this. Then maybe you can see this.
Okay.
All right. Let me go to the next one. You see this?
Yes.
Did it change? Okay. So this is the clock that I was talking about. So the hour hand is the sun and how it moves around the zodiacs. So each month the sun is in a different zodiac. So the minute hand is what I would consider where the moon is. So this clock is actually showing you that the sun is in Aries for the first month. And for this particular day, it was March 26th, and the moon was actually in Pisces. So this is from an app called the Moon app. It's pretty fun and interesting. So let me take a look here. All right. So as I was saying, I can show you how how we can tell what month it is and information just based on the sky alone if you were deserted on an island. So we're going to take a look here. All right. So the moon confirms the months and seasons. So we are able to determine what month we are on based on where the sun is and where the moon is in the sky. So the moon will confirm the month. All right. So whenever there's a full moon, that's the easiest night of the month to tell where we are in the calendar because the full moon is always directly opposite from the sun. So if I have a picture over here, this was actually February 13th. The sun was in Pisces during this time because this was the 12th month. Well, when we had a full moon, it confirms the month because it's directly opposite. I call this the luminary opposites. So, for example, you see a full moon coming up in your east with Virgo. You're going to look out your sky and you're going to see Virgo coming up with the full moon. The sun just went down over on your west. That means it's in Pisces because it's directly opposite of the moon. So here's a picture of what you would see on your east, in your eastern sky. You would see this constellation Virgo coming up with the full moon for the month of Pisces. All right. And I have a little disclaimer at the bottom that not everything that you see, if you have an app on your phone that's like Sky Tonight or Stellarium, you might be able to take your phone outside and it will be pretty close, but it could be a few degrees off. So don't always go by what those apps tell you. I really recommend going out and observing with your own eyes. But let's take a look at the next slide here. So here we are. I went outside between February 16th and March 18th, and I wanted to know if I were to go outside. I'm just giving you an example. I wanted to know if I just went outside, what month am I at? Okay, so I went outside, and again, this is the 12th month. I look outside, I see this full moon. You can go to moon apps or moon phase apps and you can find out when the full moon is going to come. So this is again March 2025. On March 14th was a full moon. So again, I'm showing you in a different screen that the sun was in Pisces. So this is an example with the zodiac here. And directly opposite was the full moon. So this is a different time frame here. So I know based on the moon coming up in Virgo that we are in the 12th month. So that is the moon confirming that we are about to hit the beginning, the first month of the year. So that is how it confirms what month we are in. So I know that by the time the sun comes out in the fourth gate through the equinox, I know we are going to be in Aries the first month of the year. I want to show you something else here. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of an astrolabe. It might be new to you guys. I recently got one about a year ago, and I've been working on learning how to use it. And this is an ancient tool that's been around for thousands of years. The earliest one that I found was around 37 AD. And these devices that have been used to tell the stars and the day and the time and the month, these astrolabes have been around and they're still accurate today. And they make these available to you. I got mine off of Etsy. But the astrolabe is an ancient device that hasn't changed. And so for people who tell you that the stars are changing, that the zodiacs are changing for the start of the year. I know a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of people this year saying, well, the new year starts with Pisces. Actually, the new year starts with Aries, and it always has been and always will be. These ancient astrolabes that have been around for thousands of years are still accurate today. I've actually looked a lot up, and I'll show you some later on. But this was my picture on March 13th. I went out and I saw the moon. The moon was in Virgo. Again, I'm sticking with the 12th month because this is when I did a lot of testing just to verify, and I took pictures to show everybody. So the moon came up. This, if you aren't familiar with the astrolabe, this is your horizon right here. So this is my eastern horizon where the moon came up that evening. The sun is right here where it was just going down, March 13th. And so I went outside to verify. The astrolabe will tell you actually what stars are in the sky for each night of the year. And so what I'm showing you here is about midnight. This is my second picture, is at midnight. The moon in Virgo is going to be almost directly north. And this is verified. I have an app. It's called the Astrolabe app. So you can get this on your phone too. And it's actually showing you the exact location where the moon is. And the sun has just gone down over the horizon, but this is a couple hours in it. This is about midnight. So these ancient astrolabes, I mean, mine isn't ancient. Mine's, was made last year. But the ancient astrolabes that you can look up online give this exact same information that our ancestors used to be able to tell the month, the day, the year. So it's very helpful. And I believe that this all matches the Zadok Jubilees Dead Sea Scrolls calendar. And it's amazing because these ancient tools, these astrolabes, all start the year with March 19th or 20th. So it hasn't changed. They have the exact same start date for the equinox that we have today. Something that I heard recently was that Psalms 104:19 is misinformation. It says, he appointed the moon for the seasons, and the sun knows his going down. I looked this up in the Aramaic Targums, and it says, I hope you can see this. If not, it says, he made the moon to calculate times by. The sun knows the time of his setting. And if you look this up in the Greek Septuagint, it says, he appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knows his going down. Now, I literally looked it up in the Greek LXX, and I took the translator, and it says, he made the moon at times the sun knew the sunset. So if you were looking at the pictures that I showed earlier, the sun and the moon are their witnesses for each other because they know they're coming up and they're going down. And so this is the representation of this verse. But if you look at the interlinear for this, Psalms 104:19, it says, he appointed the moon and the seasons, for the sun knows it's going down. The word is Le Moedim, and we know that word. I'm sure we've all heard it. It can mean appointed time, appointed place or meeting. It can also mean the seasons. But the reason the word is used differently in the Targums, because it's meaning a time of calculation. It's calculating time. And that's how I believe the sun and moon work together, is to help us to calculate the time that we are in. And I'm going to show you some examples in just a few moments. So again, the moon is for the season, and the sun knows it's going down because they're the two witnesses in the sky. So based on this information, Psalms is absolutely accurate. We actually need the moon in the sky to tell us what month we're in. So again, with the 12th month, we know we're in the 12th month when the sun is in Pisces. And this, if it just goes down in the west and the full moon comes up in your east, they're both seeing each other at the same time. They're confirming the sun's going down, the moon's coming up. They're looking at each other as an example. So I believe that is what Psalms 104 is representing. Another thing is how the stars interact with this whole time clock. And I'm going to explain that when I found out that the stars mattered, I actually got really emotional, because we're told that the stars don't matter. And a lot of people, if you ask them how the stars work in the calendar, it doesn't matter to them. It really doesn't. And when these things hit me, when I actually looked into this deeper, I realized that it is part of the Father's clock. So the sky clock and the luminary opposites that I'm talking about is the sky clock. We have to have all the parts and pieces to the sky. So I really wanted to show you this next slide, but it had, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. Let's see. No. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can.
Can you see the clock hands?
Yes.
Yes, with the sun and moon.
Yes.
On
Oh,
slide 15.
yeah, it's not gonna work. So hold on just a second. My slides aren't working. So this particular one, what I was gonna show you, no, it's not gonna work. Okay. Hold on just a moment. What I was going to show you is, if you were to look at a clock and you saw, it's hard to see, but if you saw this, you would think that it was probably 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you would think if you were looking at a 12-hour clock. What you can't see, I can maybe bring it over, is that if it was a 24-hour clock, it's actually 6 a.m. in the morning. If we don't have all the parts and pieces to a clock, we don't know what time it is. So the clock that the Father has given us is the zodiacs in the sky. This is our numbering system. This is how we can tell the time that we're in. So based on the sun and the moon in the sky, those are our hands. So we're able to tell where we are at. So it's not, it might, oh yeah, I can't show you. Sorry. Okay. So here is another example. Again, I took March 28th. There was a new moon on March 28th. You can't see a new moon because it's with the sun. And in March 28th, we already started our new year. The sun was in Aries. That means the moon was also in Aries. The next time I took this picture here was April 12th. There was a full moon. So here we have the sun in the Ram, which is Aries, and we have the full moon in Libra. I know just by looking at this that we are in the first month, because the sun is in Aries, the Ram. The moon is confirming the month. Okay, this is again the luminary opposites. So we can know this, we can learn this by pure observation. It took me a little bit of time to understand this. If I were to go outside, I can tell you what month we're in, and put me on a deserted island and give me 24 hours and I will tell you what month we're in. I might even have it down to the week that we're in, maybe even the day. It takes about 24 hours. Here is a chart of moon cycles. This is actually charted from the book of Enoch. All right, the book of Enoch gives us an entire list of how the months are represented. So this is the moon phases. So the moon, we know, is in a 29 to 30 day cycle. By the time the moon is midway through its 15th and 16th day, it's a full moon. So it starts out, the first day of the lunar month is a new moon. So for example, in Aries, in the first month, the sun is in Aries. The first and second day of the lunar cycle, it's going to be a new moon. You're not going to be able to see the moon. By the time the 15th day comes in the middle of the lunar month, and I'm not talking in the middle of the month, I'm not stating that I start my months with the new moon. That's not it. This is specifically talking about the way the moon phases work. So these are the luminary opposites that I have highlighted here. So in the first month, directly the opposite of Aries is Libra. So that's when we're going to have the full moon. In the second month, the sun will be in Taurus. Midway through the moon cycle, the full moon shows up in Scorpio. And it goes again and again, and it tells you exactly where the full moon is going to be the entire year. And again, this is all derived from the book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we're able to tell where we are in the month. The lunar opposites tell us where we are, and then it tells us how to begin our year. So we know that Enoch tells us that we're going to begin our year after the equal day and equal night, right? We know that when the sun comes in the fourth gate, we're going to start our year. So this is all in confirmation of that. So you find the full moon on the sky clock and look and see what zodiac that sun was in, or what the moon is in, sorry. And you know where the sun was all day. So that's how you figure out the lunar opposite. So the clock, our father's clock, is actually visible at night. You can't really tell what day it is or what month you're in if you go outside and look at the sun, because the sun hides the stars. But if you go out at night, give yourself about 24 hours, you're going to be able to figure that out. So here is Abib 1 this year. March 19th was the first day that I believe that the year started on March 19th. Some people who are keeping the Zadok calendar went forward a week, but I'm going to show you that Enoch tells us that when the sun is in the fourth gate is when the spring happens. Well, Aries is actually represented as the fourth gate. And I'll show you Enoch's wheel. I call it Enoch's wheel in just a moment. Aries is the name, I guess, of the constellation that holds the equinox. This is the week that Aries comes into the sky as the holder of the sun, is this week. Now, you can start next week, but it will have already been in Aries for a whole week. So if you intercalate to the next week, you're actually way into the calendar. So every year should begin when the sun is in Aries for the week. Okay, so that's why I kept March 19th as my Abib 1, because that's when Aries, or the sun, entered into Aries. Mm-hmm. And some people are right now saying that No, the spring is in Pisces now. It has moved. Well, actually, it hasn't. And I'm going to show you some background information here. Josephus was talking about Philo in the Antiquities, and he said, "For they call the ram the head of the zodiac, since it is in the sun, appears to produce the vernal equinox." If you look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica, it says the first point of Aries is the location of the March equinox, used as a reference point in celestial coordinate system. Antinomius, in the Nicene and Post-Nicene Fathers, Volume 1, says, "Wherefore we maintain that those who place the first month Nisan in it, the zodiacal sign, before the vernal equinox is determined by the 14th day of Passover, commit no slight common blunder." And this is not an opinion of our own, but it was known to the Jews of old, even before Messiah, and was carefully observed by them. So we know that there are some people out there celebrating Passover before it even gets to the equinox. Other American finds about the ram, the Aries the ram, was found in 1979 by Dr. Barry Fell. He found an Inyo inscription in America, and it was in Arabic, and it says, "When the ram and the sun are in conjunction, then celebrate the new year." And he discovered that importance of that equinox to start the year, and it starts with Aries. And then it says some scholars believe that Ram and Aries, or as Aries, becomes a central concept with the development of the Babylonian zodiac that was widespread, right? We know that people are thinking that these zodiacs are not okay, but actually the zodiacs have been telling us what our calendar says the entire time. So over here I have a picture of March 18th. This is March 18th. So this is actually the day before, or 2 days before, the equinox this year. And this is another app that's available on a phone if you wanted, but this showing that the sun is actually still in Pisces. I know I can't give you guys a full screen, but the sun is in Pisces. So here's the next day, March 19th. It switches right over to Aries the ram. So it's right in between Pisces and Aries. And so some people are saying, well, it looks a little bit more over in Pisces. But every zodiac takes up 30 degrees of your sky. So there is a 30 degrees level that you have to remember when you're looking out at the sky. And that will tell you that it is, in fact, in the ram, not in Pisces. So this is a lot that I've come up against, is a lot of people's, maybe you've heard this, is stay away from the teachings of the stars and the zodiacs. You know, astronomy is great, but it has nothing to do with our biblical beliefs, or, you know, that's sorcery. You shouldn't be studying the stars like that, right? And I want people to know that you should ask yourself, who created those heavens? Seek him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion, and turn the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day dark with the night, and call for the waters of the sea, and pour them out upon the face of the earth. Yahweh is his name. Amos 5:8. It's the worship of these things that are the abomination. Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun, the moon, and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto the nations under the whole heaven. Deuteronomy 4:19. So it's the worship of these things. But let me tell you, the studying of those things are not a sin. But many people are going to tell you that. Don't believe the lies. The zodiacs haven't moved, nor will they, including Polaris. I hear all kinds of things saying, well, Polaris at one time wasn't our North Star. Well, that's false information, because I can prove ancient times they used Polaris. So it's very interesting, the lies that we're being told. The sun is always in Aries at the equinox. And don't always believe everything you hear, especially people who are telling you that it's in Pisces right now. And you're also going to get pushback of the people who saying that, you know, you're not keeping the right calendar because everything has to do with the sighting of the moon. The sighting of the moon wasn't part of these ancient tools. It was the sun. So keep that in mind. This is one of the ancient tools that I told you about. This is an ancient astrolabe. This particular one was from 1068 AD. And this one is still accurate today. So for people to say that these things don't work, I can go outside and I can actually pinpoint where Orion is or where the Big Dipper. I can pinpoint these things with these ancient tools. Other ancient tools that have come out and explain that we are looking for these equinoxes would be like the ancient pyramids. The ancient pyramids right here will show you, based on how many shadows you see of the smaller pyramids, it tells you which part of the season that we're in. So there are various places throughout the whole earth that tells us that it's important to know when that equinox comes around. I have a list here of places like Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of Giza, Angkor Wat. These are all places that mark the equinoxes. And I don't think it's just Babylonian folklore. I don't think it's just, pagan beliefs. This is how we know where we are in time. The Gregorian calendar, that one definitely doesn't make sense. And I know you're all here looking for the calendar, and most of you are following the Zadok calendar. Interestingly enough, this is a close-up screenshot of one of those ancient astrolabes. And right here, it's marking the end of Pisces. This is the symbol for Pisces. And it's March 20th. Right here begins Aries. Okay. So yes, it can fluctuate between the 19th and 20th, but it's only off by a little bit. But these are the ancient tools, and the time hasn't changed. I've even looked at some one, and that was in Aramaic. No, sorry, Arabic. And that particular one, I looked it up and translated it, and it was just like this. It was just in Arabic, and it also marked the same date as the equinox. So it doesn't make sense on a Gregorian calendar, because why would a month begin in the middle, right? This is March. Why would the year begin in the middle of the third month? It doesn't, because the Father created a different calendar altogether. So all of these ancient luminary watching tools showed the same time for the equinox. So it must be pretty important. And if any of you are interested in getting an astrolabe, I just got mine off of Etsy. There's a lady who makes some great ones. Her page is Wavy Tail. And no, I'm not getting paid by her, but I just think it's an amazing tool to be able to use. All right, and signs in the heavens, just going over that. Enoch 75:9 says, conductors of the days and nights, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the ministers of heaven, which make their circuit with all the chariots of heaven. Well, the circuit, my friends, is the circle, the circuit that the zodiacs are in. Those are that's our timetable, our clock, so to speak. The dippers also tell us what season it is. If you haven't looked into this, these are the dippers right here. This is the Big Dipper. In the spring, if you go outside and you see your North Star, this is what the dipper looks like in the spring. So you should be able to go outside and it's in this position. It's telling you it's spring. The Father is telling us the season that we're in. So then by the summer, it's going to be facing this way, and the fall and the winter. So again, for people to say the stars don't matter, folks, it really does. Jacob's sons knew more about the stars than we do. In Genesis 37:9, it says, and he dreamed yet another dream and told his brethren and said, behold, I have a dream, and a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. So take a look at that. He's talking 11 stars. Well, he's actually talking about the zodiacs, but he's mentioning there are 11 others. So he makes the 12th. He is the 12th. They knew the signs in the sky. And I don't know how many of you follow the book of Jasher, but I'm going to read this. It says, "And he ordered them to bring before him his map of the stars, whereby Joseph knew all the times. And Joseph said unto Benjamin, I have heard that the Hebrews are acquainted with all wisdom. Dost thou know anything of this?" This is when Joseph is in Egypt and his brothers have come with Benjamin, and he still hasn't revealed his identity. And he's asking Benjamin, hey, don't you Hebrews know about the stars in the sky? And Benjamin says, "Thy servant is knowing also in all the wisdom which my father taught me." And Joseph said unto Benjamin, "Look now at this instrument, and understand where thy brother Joseph is in Egypt, who you said you went down to Egypt. And Benjamin beheld that instrument with the map of the stars of heaven. And he was wise and looked therein to know where his brother was. And Benjamin divided the whole land of Egypt into 4 divisions. And he found that he who was sitting upon the throne before him was his brother Joseph. And Benjamin wondered greatly. And when Joseph saw that his brother Benjamin was so much astonished, he said to Benjamin, "What hast thou seen? And why is thou astonished?" And Benjamin said to Joseph, "I can see by this that Joseph, my brother, sits here with me upon the throne." And Joseph said to him, "I am Joseph, your brother. Reveal not this thing unto thy brethren. Behold, I will send thee with them when they go away, and I will command them to be brought back again into the city, and I will take thee away from them." So Benjamin knew the stars. They all had their place in the sky, and they actually knew a lot more. He knew how to tell the signs in the sky. We know Magi. When Yahushua was born, we know that they knew more than we know because they had been told about these things. So there's a lot more to these stars than we know. All right. So from the book of Enoch, chapter 72:42, it says, "And that period the night becomes shortened. It is 9 parts, and the night is equal with the day. The year precisely 364 days." Enoch here is describing a time where the year is coming to an end, and the year ends when the night is equal with the day. This, I believe, in my research, is the equilux. What we know is called the equilux. When you look and find when in the year the night is equal to the day. Now, he doesn't call it the equilux, but he's defining it right here. Enoch also has 18 parts of his day. That's for a whole other topic. But he is describing the end of the 364 year. We are to look for the day that has equal parts, night and day. So this, again, is known as the equilux. He tells us how to end the year. We also know that we end the year on a Tuesday. So we're looking for a couple of things. We're looking for equal day, equal night, and a Tuesday. How do we begin a year? Well, we know that we begin our year on a Wednesday, and we know that we have to wait until the sun enters into the 4th gate, or Aries, it's called. That's the spring equinox. This is Enoch's wheel, if I can get there. This is what I created. It's a lot of information on one little chart here, but these are the pictures of the spring Big Dippers, the summer, fall, and winter Big Dipper. I have charted out all of the gates that Enoch describes on a 24-hour clock. The zodiacs are around the outside, and I have it matching the astrolabe, so it goes in this order: Aries, Taurus, Gemini. This is the north. This is your west. This is your east, your south and your east. So this is all of those things together. So I have the months on here. So for example, we have March and April. That's Aries, right? And we have the Dipper and the 4th gate. So the 4th gate is Aries. Then we have the 5th gate is Taurus. So this goes around in a circle. All right. So with that information, I want to show you how to create your own Zadok calendar. Again, I have determined, shown you, I guess, that the 364 days of the previous year has to end, and it has to end on a Tuesday. And we have to be within the proximity of that equilux that Enoch was talking about. And we know the new year begins on a Wednesday closest to the equinox. So I'm going to show you how to do a calendar here. We have to determine the equilux and equinox. So I got out an app. This is called the Moon app, and you can actually look on here where it says day length. So this was March 16th. I looked up the day length and it was 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds. So then I went to March 17th. The day length just went over the threshold, the 12 hours, 2 minutes, 57 seconds. So we have just completed what Enoch would consider the last day of our year. So we know the 16th and 17th, between those 2 days, we've ended our year. So now we have to find the equinox, which we know that is usually on the 19th or the 20th. But I have good news here. You don't have to verify the equilux because it's the same day every single year. March 16th and 17th, every single year. Same with the equinox. We know it's usually the March 19th or the 20th every single year. I know some people have said it's on the 21st. Usually those people that I've noticed are from New Zealand or Australia, somewhere, and they're saying it's on the 21st. But in most cases, it's the 19th and 20th. So you don't even have to know that information or to go and look it up because it's already established. It's the same time every year within a 24-hour period. So we can confirm the equinox is with Aries, right? So we know that the equilux is going to be in Pisces because that's ending our year. Let me go to the next one. So a lot of people know about the menorah method of intercalating or how to start the year. I look at it this way. The menorah method goes from Sunday to Saturday. And we know that our first day is always going to be a Wednesday. Our last day is always going to be a Tuesday. So all of our dates are usually within the same 7-day week. But I'm going to show you how to start the calendar. So if all your days are usually within the week Sunday through Saturday, but start to shift into the following week, the next week is going to start another Sunday. So if anything, if your 19th or 20th of your equinox shifts into the Sunday, you would leap. Sunday is the first day of our week. So we should always start in the same week as the equinox. And I know that there's confusion as to do we start before the equinox, after the equinox, when is it okay? I do the menorah method. So I'm going to show you how to do it. This is how I find my first day. So I determine number 1, I need to determine when my equilux is. So I have numbers here, 16th and the 17th, there's my number 1. Number 2, I have to establish when the previous year ended. So this is March 2025. So the previous year ended on March 18th. So this is my number 2. Now I need to determine when the equinox is going to be. I know it's going to be between the 19th and 20th. There's my number 3. So I've determined it is all in the same week. So my day 1 is going to be a Wednesday closest to the equinox. So it would be the 19th. So 2025 started here. Here is 2026. We find the equilux, 16th and the 17th. There's my number 1. Number 2, finding the end of the previous year, which was the Tuesday. That's the 17th right here. Number 3, finding the equinox. Here it is, 19th, 20th. There's my number 3. Again, we're in the same week. So number 4 is determining the Wednesday closest to that equinox. That's the 18th. So 2026 starts right there. It's just going to get easier. Here's day 1, 2027. We know the equilux is between the 16th and 17th. So here's number 1. determining the end of that previous year. We know that it was the 16th, which is a Tuesday. And then we determine the equinox is the 19th or the 20th. So we're still within this week. So here we have the first day of 2027 will be the 17th. But I'm going to show you one more because this one's more important than the rest. So this is March 2028. We're going to determine the equinox. That's the 19th that's the 16th and 17th right here, number 1. Number 2 here, determine the end of the previous year. Well, the previous year ends on March 14th. And then number 3, we determine the equinox. Well, we know that's the 19th and 20th, but look here. All of that information's up in this week. But now we've shifted the equinox down into this week. This is when everything moves to the next week. This is Sunday, starting our new week. That's when we leap. So in 2028 will be the next time it leaps. So we will be starting the year on the 22nd. Again, we're only 2 to 3 days from the equinox at all times. And this is how I'm understanding it. Something else that comes about is, does this keep the priestly cycle? Because we know the priestly cycle can be found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Chronicles and Kings. The priestly cycle begins with Gamul. So in the next couple of slides, I'm just going to be focusing on Gamul. Gamul begins during the first month of Abib every 7 years. And I'm going to show you how Gamul works with the leap years. This is my page here, cycles and years. What we just saw and how I showed you how the leap year worked is called a cycle. When everything moves into the next Sunday, we shift down or we leap into the next week. This happens every 3rd year after a Gamul priestly calendar cycle year. We do not need to cite the moon or the sun or the stars. However, we can figure it out with his pattern. You can figure this out if you wake up from a coma or you are on a deserted island. You can find this out. However, if you have a calendar, it's very simple because the Father has amazing patterns. I went through and looked at all of the patterns. I went back to 2013. It went Gamul year, and then it goes a regular year, leap year. Regular, Gamul year. Regular, leap. So Gamul happens every 7 years, over and over again. The leap years happen every 7th year, over and over again. So it goes Gamul, 3 years is a leap, 3 years is Gamul, 3 years is a leap. And this happens over and over and over again. So what we know about the Zadok calendar tells us, how to end the year on a Tuesday. We know that the calendar Sabbaths and feasts are fixed with the Zadok calendar. We now know that the sun, the moon, and the stars can be used.
Hear us, it has nothing to do.
Did she crash? Hello, Jackson?
Looks like she's still on, but
The sound's gone off for me. How about you?
Yeah, vision as well, everything. She's gone.
If I can get a hold of her. She doesn't show being muted.
No, but I think she's crashed. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing there.
She's still showing on here.
Oh yes, I see it. There she is.
Mhm. Well, This fan says that there's two types of accuracy. There's an astronomical accuracy and there's a literal accuracy.
You just
There,
hello?
we can hear you again now.
Okay, no problem. And then the last thing that we need to know is that his timepiece is perfect. So it keeps the Sabbath day on the seventh day throughout the year. It keeps the priestly cycles intact. It has multiple witnesses and it's used in scripture. We have proof that this information is followed. We can look in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Zadok calendar matches perfectly to Enoch's trip Noah's trip on the ark. We know it's absolutely reliable. We don't have to verify with the luminaries, but we can go out and look at those things. It matches all these stories in scripture. It aligns with ancient timekeeping tools that have not changed. And no other calendar can prove the use of the sun, the moon, and the stars, all three of them. So if we use the sun, moon, and stars for the Zadok calendar, can we call it a solar only calendar? I don't know. I've been really questioning that because yes, it requires the sun to to know where we are. It is a solar type of calendar, but because I know how to use the moon in all of this, I've been able to like narrow it down. And actually, if you use all the clock parts and pieces, including the hands and the numbers, and you know where they are at night, you're going to be able to tell where you are in the Father's calendar. And so it's definitely interesting that I don't, it's obviously not a loony solar calendar for the definition we know today, but I would consider it a luminary calendar because you can use all three of those things to tell where you are today. This is my last page here. This is actually an astronomical clock that we just bought for our home, and it actually keeps track. This was a clock that I bought from Bucharest, Romania.
Sorry, Tina, sorry to interrupt you. We can't see your slides anymore. Would you mind sharing them again?
Oh, okay. Yep. I don't know. Weird. Okay. Can you see? Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is my clock that we own. It's from Bucharest, Romania. And this actually is in alignment with the sun, moon, and stars. So on the outside, it actually tracks the moon. And then down here, it tracks the zodiacs that we're in. So I actually took a picture of this on March. Let's see here. It actually says March 25th. I took that picture and it's in air, the sun is in Aries and we can tell the moon here. So these clocks have been around. There's a Prague clock. There are these ancient astronomical things that still work today. So I just want to reiterate that we've been told this is wrong. We've been told that we shouldn't look into these things, but they all tell a story, and the Father's patterns are miraculous. And so I just want to share that. That's my passion right now, is to tell people it's okay to get back into looking at the sun, moon, and stars, and learning more about how that actually does work in the Zeta. Anyway, the last thing I just want to say, if you want more information, more presentations that I've done, I have a YouTube channel called The Fight for Truth. So that is the end of my presentation there.
Fantastic. Almost as good as mine. He's
We lost.
Are you still alive there, Jackson?
Yeah.
Unmute so you can respond.
Jackson, you're muted. Jackson.
Yeah.
Wow. Tina, that was great. Really? Can you hear me, Tina?
Sorry, I could not, I've had trouble lately on Zoom finding the Zoom screen if I go off for something. It doesn't show up anymore. But as far as that website, I want to send you out in the chat that URL, and there it is. I think that she outdoes you in one thing, Norman,
Right.
and that is in explaining the Maseroth.
No.
And so I still don't understand yours or hers. I wonder if they have a Maseroth 101 someplace.
Well,
See, there are two, as I put in the chat. Maybe I can find it here. There are two different means of finding your calendar. And then,
well, okay, can I present very briefly?
okay,
Yes. You know, it'll take me just, 5
where's
minutes
my chat at?
or thereabouts. So getting Tina, the moon app, I was looking for that also, and I couldn't find it. That was excellent app.
Yeah, it's just called The Moon.
Oh, the moon. Okay.
The Moon.
The moon. Wow. I looked and I don't know. I'll keep looking. But anyway, I'd like to say, if you don't mind, Jackson, I'd like to say to Tina that I came across your site about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, and I was blown away. And I thought, finally, I found somebody who's in sync with the way I've understood it. It's taken, I don't know how you're still a young person. I'm 184 years old. So it's taken me a long time to get to where I am today, exactly where you are. You've approached it from a slightly different point of view, but you come to the same conclusion. And I really enjoyed it. And I was hoping that maybe one day, when you've got 5 minutes, so that we could share some ideas. And if Jackson will give me a few moments just to for me to share with everyone else, very similar to what you've done. But I think I've made it simpler, minus the moon. In my studies, I've said, yes, the moon is important. But well, I don't know. And when I saw your site, I said, there it is. She's got it. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You want to explain that now? I think I'm going to curtail my presentation until next time because of the time factor. We really
How much time have we got?
about 90 minutes. So you've got 20 minutes if you want.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, go ahead.
But now we have to share screen. You have to give it to me.
I think that they've taken that option away. So what I'm saying is that I don't think you need it anymore.
Well, Tina,
nevertheless, we'll make you a co-host. And you have full power, my friend.
finally I've got it.
Okay.
All right, let me see my calendar. There it is, share. Right, I'm assuming you can all see that. Yes?
Yes. His
Thank you.
calendar is about the most detailed, certainly the most detailed I've ever seen.
Yes. Now, the reason I've done that is it's a basic war calendar, but I've put all the information in there to show you exactly who did what, where they were, and who said what, when. I felt that was important. So let me now, okay, I've got you guys here. I'm going to have to reduce everything to a tiny icon. Right. So I need to now change the pages and go to the various pages. But I'm just going to go to the very first one. And there's the answer to everything. Well, almost the answer, but you would have to read that and see that we see that there is, without question, a solar year of 365 and a quarter days and a temporal year of 364 days. There are two events occurring independent of each other, and this is the big problem. Most of the calendars that I've come across fantastic information, but they all try to make the two work together. They cannot work together. They're independent. The solar year, when the alignment of sun, earth, and constellation Aries, it's that alignment, it determines the spring new year. Now, it's a key witness to the seasons. Then the temple year, always on day 4, it never varies. It is a temple liturgical new year. It governs the appointed times, but it relies upon the spring event for reckoning of seasons. Are we in season? This is the critical issue right there. Where is the sun? All right, so I drew up myself for a little clock diagram. And here again, there's a lot of information I get, but this really nothing too technical. If you just read each little paragraph there, you'll get a picture. But over here on the left, we see an image of a sundial found at Qumran. Oh, they knew how to use a sundial. And yes, one from Egypt, a shadow sundial. I'm not going to spend too much time in here, except this little part up here. We will notice that the biggest argument in Genesis 1, where it says the night and the day, and the night was the first day. No, it's not. The night is not the first day. How did the ancients understand when evening began? You know, we say good morning when the sun is up. Later on in the afternoon, we say good day. And then we cross over midday. And then we say good afternoon, good midday, afternoon. We then go down our scale and we say good evening. And the ancients, they too had a similar method after the sun going down. This was their minor oblation, and they had a major evening oblation. And it was between the evenings where the final lamb was sacrificed, and it was the time when Christ was finally died. He was crucified on the third hour, 9 o'clock in the morning, and he died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 9 in their time. Not much happens at night. Sure, you know, some taverns might be open and some people are sitting around and talking about things, but everything, 99.9% of things happen during the day. In fact, even Yeshua said, are there not 12 hours in the day?
Right.
So let me see if I can show you another one quickly now. So, sorry, hello? Yes? Yes?
Yes. What?
Okay, I just heard you say, okay, I didn't know what was going. Sorry. So, next. All right, so here's what Tina was explaining, where the sun is. And I graphed this out over how many? A 12-year period. Each year, the sun arises approximately on the 20th. Where is the sun? Where is the sun rising? Where is spring equinox? Year in 25, it's Wednesday into Tuesday, into Thursday, thereabouts. And here we see in 2028, as Tina said, where's the sun? We have to follow the sun. And this is where you have to count your year, because if you don't count, so here a brief explanation of what's going on here. There we have another image. This is in the year 2028. Again, where is the sun? It's on the Monday, I beg your pardon, the second day of the week. But the question is, where is the sun? So if you're counting your year, every year the priestly cycle, they counted everybody. You had to count. Everybody served a week, and the next guy served his week, and the next guy served his week. They did this ad infinitum, if that's such a word. But anyway, they get here 364. Where is the sun? This is where they realize they now need to intercalate this 1 week here. This is where you intercalate, not let's see, let me grab March. Yeah, March is coming up. You don't say, oh, because the sun is now past the fourth day, we have to move everything down. And this is what 90%, 95% of the calendar guys do that. And they say, well, you've got to be in spring. But where is it written anywhere? Last week, we heard a very good explanation of the scriptures that we have that doesn't give you a clear definition of how to do everything, how to calculate. But this is very simple. The feast days have to be in season, not the head of the year. So if you look here, up top here, we're in spring. The feast days, in fact, let me go back to another view. You will see that slightly better. Here it is, here's the sun. Next year, it's arriving on Friday. So everybody says, no, we've got to move it down. No, the feast days are in spring, the first month of spring. Nothing changes. You don't have to move that down. You only move it when the sun. So let's go back to now the Mazzaroth. Here's a view of the constellation. Am I still with everyone? Anyone? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. I think you're in and out a little bit there, sir.
Yeah. Wait, what was the last statement?
I think he's out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll have to. We'll do a full presentation one day. So here is the constellation, but this is what is known as the great year. This is the great year of 26,000 years for everything to rotate once and come back to this point takes 26,000 years. Each cycle is approximately 2,100 years. We're in the ruling age of Pisces. Then we go into the annual year cycle, very similar, and nothing changes except that we're now going to see this happening in your year. But we're in the ruling age era of Pisces. So here's another view of the zodiac system and how it moves. So the question is, how do we decide the beginning of the year? Simple. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Follow the moon. I beg your pardon, follow the sun. Where is it? It's as simple as that. There's nothing awfully complicated. Each year, like this one here, I'm getting a little flustered here because of time, but I've got myself in the way. Oh, come on, get out of the way. Each year, the sun is in a slightly different position and just follow this sun. You've all, I think our generation, I don't know about Tina, but if you remember the old movies, they used to have that sing-along, follow the bouncing ball. That's it. Where is the sun? Where is the spring equinox rising? Then on the fourth day of that week, that is that is where you in that week, that is when you you observe the year that week. I'm getting a little flustered here because of the limitation of time. Hopefully that we will be able to do a full presentation a little slower and a little bit more detailed. But Tina, thank you again. I'm so glad that we're on the same page. Like I said, from a slightly different angle. And if you feel that you would like to collaborate with me a little bit, because listen, I'm a 184-year-old guy, and everything is becoming awfully slower and tougher for me to get my head around and do things. So if you want to glean anything from here, if there's any value here, you're welcome to it. And I'm quite prepared to share everything that I've garnered over my 50 years.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you, Jackson.
Very good. We've got Ruth Matthews is here from Malaysia. I can imagine it's probably 12 hours difference. It's probably in the morning over there. But she's got 10 minutes on this same subject. She says she's found a simpler way. And I'm certainly wanting to hear that in the last 10 minutes we have here. So, Ruth, where are you? Can you
Well,
come?
you're right. Hi, I am in Malaysia. It's 9:20 a.m. over here. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to just say hello and to say thank you as well to Tina and to Norman. Tina, I'm so glad to have watched your presentation. I did come across your video. Somebody had sent it around and I hadn't had the time to have a look at it. And so having you presenting it today is just fantastic. So thank you. I was just very glad to see the details that you put in, all the effort that you put into looking into this. I don't really have a presentation. I do have a calendar that I put out every single year. So I'm going to pull off a couple of pages from that calendar.
It's beautiful.
Just give me a minute. I did send it to you, Brother Jackson, so that you can have it available. What I would say is what you presented, Tina, I had come across that information through a brother who has a blog spot, a blog called Haderek, and he had outlined the positions of the moon throughout the zodiac, throughout the entire year. So I thought that was a good comparison. However, I never really actually focused on that because I guess the conclusion of it is that whatever the case is, the sun will always be in Aries at the time of the equinox. I think we agree with that. So we look for that. The question is whether we would start before or after. And a lot of people would say, oh, we need to have the equinoxes start after that. And if you have the equinox, you cite the equinox, then only you get started with the year. And I'm glad to hear that what you're saying is similar to what I'm saying, which is that we're looking at being the closest to the equinox as possible, which indicates to us the beginning of the year. The other position that is taken is that we have to look at the priestly cycles, and the priestly cycles indicate to us how to go about the beginning of the year. So some people will say this priestly cycle is 6 years. This year starts with Gamul, is the first year of the cycle, and then we don't add a single week for 6 years, and we add a week after the 6-year cycle of the priests is completed, which I would disagree with as well, but that's for another conversation. In any event, this is the calendar that I put out for this year. And as I mentioned, I did send it to you, Brother Jackson, so you can add it onto your website and make it available. And the way that I start the year is simply the way that you described, Tina, which is using the menorah method. At some point in the presentation, I thought, oh, is she using the equinox as a marker and you have to start after the equinox, in which case you'd have had to start the year on the 26th of March this year. But I was glad to hear that you're actually looking at a narrow window before and after the equinox. I have a little graph here at the end of the calendar where I show you the menorah. So you're getting a quick preview of the calendar. And so actually here in the biblical divisions of time, I do indicate that with the Mazarot here, that the months are indicated by the Mazarot, but I don't go into any details on that. How the year begins, I look at this as well. So this would be the year 2025. And what I have found is that in some ancient texts, and I'm hoping that maybe Brother Jackson, you have some extra details on that. In some ancient texts, we have the information that the menorah indicated the days of the week. So we have this in Philo of Alexandria and Josephus. So Philo of Alexandria would say, the candlestick that Moses placed at the south of the tabernacle, figuring thereby the movement of the luminaries above, for the sun and the moon and the others run their courses in the south far away from the north, and therefore 6 branches, 3 on each side, issue from the central candlestick, bringing up the number to 7. And on all these are set 7 lamps and candle bearers, symbols of what the men of science call planets. For the sun, like the candlestick, has the 4th place in the middle of the 6 and gives light to the 3 above and the 3 below, so tuning to harmony and instrument of music truly divine. Josephus says, it terminated in 7 kephalas, branches, literally heads, regularly disposed in a row. Each branch or head bore 1 lamp, recalling the number of the planets. The 7 lamps faced southwest, and the candelabrum being placed crosswise. So the number of the planets indicated the days of the week in the past. And so we are in agreement, I think, to say that that these different branches of the menorah indicate which day of the week. And so what is interesting is that when you read the biblical text, we know that each head of the menorah can actually be removed. Each lamp could actually be removed. And there is one brother who proposed that the lamps of the menorah could be turned. This is Brother Ken Johnson, if you have ever looked at his material. And so these could possibly have been moved to indicate the day on which the equinox would fall every single year. So this particular year, using this method, we have the lamps turned in one direction over here, and then the spring equinox happened on a Thursday, on the 5th day of the week this year in 2025. And so we turn this menorah lamp in the other direction, and then the rest are turned in the opposite direction. So every single year we indicate this. And as a result, this changes from year to year. And as Tina mentioned, the moment that you move from one week to another, you end up adding a leap week for that year. What this does, and I hope I can do this explanation justice within 10 minutes, as Brother Norman mentioned, there is a temple cycle, there is a solar cycle, there is a lunar cycle, there are the cycles of the stars. Everything has its own cycle according to the Creator. As Brother Norman mentioned, it's wrong to try to match the cycle of the sun with the cycle of the temple calendar. In essence, when we say that the year has to begin with the equinox, for instance, there are some groups that would say the day of the equinox is the head of the year. That is attempting to match the solar cycle to the temple cycle. What we need to do, however, is to look at which cycle is Yahuwah indicating to us. What is the cycle of the year to him? And I'm finding that if you look at the way that the stars, for example, move in the sky, and this is it's called a spirograph, what you can see here. I hope that you can see this little round graphic here. These are the movements of the different stars as pictured by Ptolemy. This is the Ptolemaic model of the Earth. It's a geocentric perspective, but it basically is what we would see in the sky from our Earth's perspective. And what I find very interesting is that they create such a wonderful pattern in the sky. They are just beautiful to see that. And I wish I could show you, this would maybe be at a different time, that in essence, these stars look like they are on a wheel going around from year to year. And then within that wheel, they actually make an inner loop. And so this is why you have this inner loop here, sort of like having a wheel within a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see that pattern of the stars, it made me think, what if this is the way that the intercalation works? So throughout time, you have a cycle that happens that is on a linear, or on a circle, and then every now and then you have an inner loop that comes in, which is the intercalation, where you go into sort of like out of time, and then you come back into the cycle of the year. All right, so that's how I view these inner loops that you see here, that maybe that's what Yahuwah is seeing from above. So what we see is that what we need to find out is, when is it that loop, that inner loop happens? And I mean, fully agree again with what was shared by Sister Tina as well as Brother Norman, with the exception that I've found that there is a cycle of 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, so a total of 28 years. And I'm going to share this real quick. And this may not be fully accurate. What I try to do is to spread it out over as many years as possible. So in doing all of these calculations, I basically have gone from 1996 to as far as 2100 plus, as best as possible. The only issue with that is we don't exactly know if the measurements of the equinox that we have given to us, or the projections that we have, are accurate. But if I were to take 1996 as a baseline, the equinox happened on a Wednesday in 1996. And then it happened on a Thursday in 1997, then on a Friday in 98, on a Saturday in 99. 2000, it skipped a day, it skipped a Sunday. It was in 2000. So every single time we start a new line here, that's the indication of a leap week happening. And when you look at the number of years in between, because I don't have the indications of what happened before 1996, I just have 4 years here. Then I have 5 years before a leap week. Then I have 6 years before a leap week, then 5 years, then 6 years. And then a normal cycle here, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. This totals 28 years. And why 28 years significant? 28 years because that's the cycle of the sun. The sun has its own cycle that lasts 28 years. The moon has its own cycle that lasts 19 years. So this basically goes through the sun cycle of 28 years, and that's what we observe if you were to use this menorah method, or the method of having the Wednesday closest to the equinox. And this goes on. And in reality, we could actually project this over time without ever having to look at the luminary, so to speak, by just keeping to this intercalation method. By saying 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, we end up on our feet every single time at the right time. This doesn't negate, however, the importance of looking at the luminaries, but you would always find the equinox at the time of Aries, which is to me the most important aspect. So I hope that you've followed this so far. It's just that we maybe just disagree on that point with Tina, that I don't see that same cycle with the priestly cycle. But I'm happy to actually go back. If you don't mind us exchanging some notes, I'm happy to go back and have a look at that in more details. So what this does to me, in conclusion, is that it actually places the week of 7 days as the driver for the calendar. It honors the creation week. It honors the 6 days plus 1 of Yahuwah. instead of making the spring equinox just the main indicator, or even the luminaries as the main indicators, they do indicate the beginning of time, etc., the season that we're supposed to start in. But what this does is when the spring equinox indicates the week that we're supposed to start in, it tells me that the week of 7 days is crucial to the Father. That it really is a septenary calendar, a calendar that is based on 364 days, the addition of another 7 days as intercalation every now and then. It anchors the calendar on the weekly cycle. And that truly is the cycle of the master. It is the most important cycle that we have. And breaking that is, in essence, tantamount to breaking the law. So when you have calendars that will state that the head of the year has to happen on the equinox, and that is day 4 of the year every single year, it causes the calendar to have extra days, or an extra 1 or 2 days at the end of the year, breaking the weekly cycle every single year. But here we have the cycle of the sun, the cycle of the week being the central aspect. So when we talk about the solar year is 365 days, the lunar cycle is 354 days, etc. These are cycles of the luminaries. When we look at Yahuwah's cycle, his cycle is based on the 7-day week. And this intercalation method indicates just that the central aspect of his calendar is the 7-day week. And so, as was explained earlier by both Brother Norman and Sister Tina, using this methodology, we start off the spring equinox on Thursday this year, then it will move to Friday next year, then Saturday in 2027, and then it will fall on a Monday in 2028, and that's when we have an intercalation again. All right, so I think it's just wonderful. When I spent time looking at this, it's just wonderful and glorifying the Master when we see that his week is central. You keep everything within that week. If you imagine creation, that week you would have had the equinox, and that week you'd have had the creation of the luminaries, and then they go into a cycle. It doesn't have to be the exact same matching cycle every single year. It is something that will repeat itself over a longer period of time. You just have to be patient to see that. So oftentimes, where those of us who have studied the calendar, we try to find ways to match the moon, match the sun, match the luminaries. It actually never happens. If we were to look at trying to match everything or find a cycle that matches the exact pattern that it was on the day 1 of creation, we wouldn't be able to see that. You could actually wait for hundreds of years before seeing a complete alignment of sun, moon, and stars the way that it was at creation. Everything moves in its own cycle. We just have to find what is the cycle that Yah has established for his people, not the cycle of the sun, not the cycle of the moon, not the cycle of the stars, but what is it for his people? And all of these luminaries indicate to us what that cycle is. I'll stop here. I do have some questions because, like I said, this is only confirming what has already been shared. I don't really have anything in additional to that, but I would like to keep in touch with both Norman and Tina and have a look at what, especially with regards to the Moon app, what that means. And maybe actually, let me just pull this up real quick because I have it at the beginning in month 1. I have a question on that with regards to what the moon indicates. Because if the full moon is supposed to indicate the month of the year, the beginning of the first month of the year, the full moon fell on, I guess over here you have, I hope you can see this.
Right.
The full moon was April 13th, or maybe April 12th and April 13th, which falls actually next week. It's the wave sheaf. So this is pretty late in the month because it's already on day 26 of the first month. Tina, how does it work to indicate beginning or the month of the year? Because I would have expected if you were to use the full moon, because the moon will move 10 days earlier every single year. So if the full moon is here on April 13th this year, next year we will find it around April 3rd. And then the year after that, we will find it somewhere, in March 20, maybe March 23rd. So how does that help us in finding the beginning of the year?
So the beginning of the year, we have to go to the last month of the year. So you're always going to want to go into look when the sun is in Pisces, and then there's a full moon that month. Then you know that you're in the 12th month because you verify the sun is in Pisces, the full moon is in Virgo. So that indicates that the next time that you see the sun going through, on the equinox, that's when it's in the 4th gate. So that's how we know. We just know based on the 12th month, we know that it's coming around, right? It's going into the next gate.
Okay. So if I were to just use the equinox as an indicator, that would be sufficient as well, right? Because if I look at the equinox and I find the equinox and I know where the Wednesday or the last day of the year is, I actually don't need to have the moon to confirm. It's only if, let's say, I don't have a measurement to measure the equinox, then I would need something like that. But in reality, if I just had an equinox measurement, that's all that I need to tell me that, that's the beginning of
right.
the
And
new
you're
year.
going to get that same reading year after year. And that's why it's very easy, because it's a pattern. It's a repeatable pattern. That's my understanding. Yes. That's why, again, there's all those places that have, major megalith buildings with holes in the wall. And so as soon as the equinox hits that one little hole, you know that you've hit the equinox, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
And so you
Yes.
can chart it out just like you can do the long line, how other people are measuring the equinox as well. So you just know that it's coming. So yeah, the equinox is going to tell you for sure each year. So you're
Yes.
just going to wait for that one time. But if you know it's coming, you know it's about to line up so that you can say, oh, yep, we are there
right.
in the equinox. So yeah, definitely. The moon is just confirmation. So
That's
you
right.
would just
Okay,
be
so I
able
see
to
it as
go
that.
out for that confirmation. Yeah.
And that's the system that I use, just the sun.
Yes, and I would add this, which I think is amazing. I think the menorah shows us what happens at the equinox. If the beginning of the year is on a Wednesday, that particular year, you will have the straight line shadow on that day, which is the straight branch of the menorah. If the equinox happens on a Thursday, when you observe the line on a Wednesday, which is the beginning of the year, you will see a curved shadow. Then if you do it further, let's say 2026, and you will have the equinox further away from the head of the year. On that head of the year, you will have the curved line even further. Okay, granted that this is not the way that the curve would work, okay, on your chart, but this is just, to me, visually, it's telling me that I have a curved shadow or a line that is curved on the day of the new year.
No,
Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Spring equinox shadow will always be in line. It's not dependent on the head of the year. So whenever spring is, it's always a straight line shadow, always.
Yes. And so that's not what I'm saying. The spring equinox will always be a straight line shadow on the day of the equinox. On the day of the new year, the shadow of the sun may not always be a straight shadow because the new year doesn't always start on the spring equinox. If you're observing...
That's a little confusing. This is why a lot of people try to say the moon and the sun and the 4th day of the week. And it gets confusing. So this is why I separate the two events that are occurring. Don't try and conflate them. That's always the problem.
Okay, let me just try and explain what I'm visualizing, what I'm showing.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but do you get what I'm saying? this is where a lot of calendar guys, they conflate the issues and makes issues more confusing. So, but, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought I'd just throw that in. Sorry about that, Ruth.
No worries. It's just to me an indicator of how, it visually I'm seeing the way that the shadows are lined up together with the menorah as well. Like this is what you would see from one beginning of the year to another. You will see a different shape of the shadow, or a line of the shadow curve that is further and further away from the straight line, which is the fourth branch of the menorah. And basically, you're sort of having an inverted menorah, so to speak, that is drawn in, on a piece of paper over, let's say, 6-7 years. That's just an observation. It doesn't have to be an indicator for anything. It's just something that I observed, and I thought, oh, this is pretty amazing to see that.
So Tina and Ruth look, your graphics, both of you, that is beautiful, phenomenal. I thought I was the king of the hill, but no, I really enjoyed what I've heard and what I'm seeing. I really wish that we could collaborate. You take what I've got, but you've got it all. I don't know.
Well, thank Abba for the inspiration, for sure.
That's beautiful.
But I think that we could definitely work together. The other thing too that I did indicate in the calendar, which real quick I'll show you, is this is not related to the beginning of the year, but it's related to 1 Chronicles chapter 27. It's that the head of each month begins with something that I find in 1 Chronicles 27, which is the change of the guard. It's all of those that followed the king everywhere he went. So every officer that heads a month is indicated here. And what I find interesting is that if you think of the stars being the hosts of heaven, they are the army of heaven. And so it's fascinating to think that if every month was headed by one particular officer, it heads an army, and that even on the earth, we're seeing the army of the king being set up. And at the same time, you have the army of the king in the heavenly place as well. And each one of them has their very specific place. Just thought that I'd add that because it's a wonderful thing to consider.
And what month is it? February, January, February, is it? Okay.
Excuse me, sorry, I couldn't hear that.
So what month was that?
I think it was, I showed month 11, if I'm not mistaken.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I'll put that little note in as well.
Yeah.
Hey, Ruth.
Yes.
Ruth, could you show us that spirograph and then maybe point on that to indicate what the angelic leaders of the months and leaders of the seasonal changes where they
I don't, these are just these are months. These are the different stars. I'm not too sure we can see them in details here. There are no names, but it would be Venus, Saturn, the different planets. So you wouldn't have the leaders of the seasons. It's not what you're seeing. To me, it's imaginary, as if he has the hosts of heaven moving from one position to another, he also has the hosts on earth moving from one position to another. So in our case, it will be a change of the guard, so to speak, that would happen from month to month.
This is actually the back of an astrolabe as well.
Oh.
And I think it's wonderful that you brought up the astrolabe, because I really it's been on my mind to study the astronomical clock, and the way you brought it up was just wonderful. I think that people did have the understanding of time back then, and we just have to recover the way that they saw time pass.
We've lost that knowledge, and this is where so many people with the calendar are so messed up. It's fantastic.
Okay,
Mark-
well, I'm probably messed up too, but I see things a lot differently than you all do. Like I wrote in the chat that there is a literary accuracy and there's an astronomical accuracy, and neither one of them take priority. However, they'll never be the same. So we'll take that up next time. Anyway, I appreciate y'all being here. I promised I wouldn't go over an hour and a half, but it's been well worth it. And you that presented have done an absolute wonderful job. So we'll do this again on May the 4th, Sunday, same time, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And I hope you'll come back. If you are going to want to present something, just let me know ahead of time so I can figure it in. Meantime,
Interested in hearing what you have to say, Jackson.
it's time to go, brother. You took an hour and a half, so we'll do it next time. But because it's a showstopper, I think.
Oh, yeah, right.
If you have tomatoes, thank goodness we're in cyberspace here because you probably want to launch tomatoes at me. So to keep in touch, at this point, probably the easiest way is to just send me a note. You all can get a hold of me and I'll send it on to whoever wants it. And then you can swap with them contact information. Okay, I don't want to give out email addresses unless I have permission. So I would ask, what I would normally do if you ask for somebody's contact information, I will get in touch with them and ask them if it was okay. And then I would come back and get it and send it to you if need be. But I would do that fast, within a day. So
Is it okay? I just put my email in the chat. Is that okay?
Sure, that's really good.
I don't see it.
That's good.
Oh, there, got it. Right.
Calling.
Got it. Super. Can you just hold a second, Jackson? How do I copy that without?
I don't know. How do you copy it?
Okay, I got it.
Okay, brother.
Don't forget, man, I'm 184 years
I
old.
know, that's what I said. You're too old to be here. I'm right behind you, brother.
Yeah.
Looks like maybe
And you are incredible. And as we know, we all appreciate and love you and thank you for all the work that you do.
definitely.
And us. Thank you.
Well, see you soon. Stay in touch, will you? If you make discoveries, yes, I would like to be a person to disseminate those. And like I said, I've got a new website for that very purpose.
Glenn.
Hi, Connor and
Hi, Glenn.
Celeste.
Oh.
I just wanted to say hi, and Ruth, and thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, for your presentation. It's been great. Toda rabah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
And you all, good night. Go with Yah.